Have you ever walked away from a confrontation thinking, I should have said this? Or worse, feeling humiliated for reacting too quickly today? We solve that. No more losing control, no more emotional traps. This is how Machiavellian thinkers win even before the first word is spoken. Let me tell you a truth. Few men dare to admit in confrontation. It is not truth that wins. It is not facts, nor righteousness, nor even force. What wins is perception. And the man who controls perception controls the outcome. That is why the calm man is feared while the loud man is merely heard. You see, the instant you raise your voice, tense your jaw, or show a twitch of discomfort, you've already betrayed something far more dangerous than weakness. You've betrayed that you are reacting, not leading, and in the world of power, reaction is submission. Think carefully. Have you ever watched two men argue? One is flailing his arms, breathing heavily, spilling his emotions into the air like a drunk spills wine on silk, and the other is composed, still watching, responding with clipped, calculated words. Now tell me which one seemed more powerful, which one looked like he had control, even if the angry one was right. He looked weak because he allowed the other to dictate how he felt. This is what Machiavelli understood centuries ago. Power is a performance, and calmness is one of its greatest illusions. Appear calm, even if you are not, and the world will perceive you as strong. Appear unshaken, and others will believe you have seen far worse, survived far more, and bowed to none. There is no command in chaos. There is no leadership in loudness, only the illusion of strength. A hollow strength that shatters at the first sign of resistance. Real control is quiet. It's in the breath. You don't take the insult. You don't answer the twitch. You suppress the silence between your words. And when you master that silence, you begin to manipulate the room, not through dominance, but through tension. Because people are not afraid of what they hear. They are afraid of what they can't read. They fear what they can't predict. And there is nothing more unpredictable than a man who does not react. Let your opponent shout. Let him shake with rage. Let him flood the room with heat. You become cold. The colder you appear, the more desperate they become to break that mask. And every word they say, every insult they throw, every emotional outburst, they are no longer controlling you. They are exposing themselves. What they don't understand is that you've already won, because their perception and the crowd's has tilted in your favor. You have seized the high ground not by being better, but by appearing untouchable. You must remember, the battlefield of confrontation is not won with facts or arguments. It's won in the first 3 seconds when the other party sees how you carry yourself. Do your eyes dart around the room? Do your shoulders hunch? Do you fidget? Do you raise your voice a notch too loud? All of these are subtle betrayals. They tell the world you are uncertain, and the uncertain man is the man who loses control. Is not a matter of words, it is a matter of presence. It's in your stillness, in your unchanging tone, in the way you pause before answering. Not because you don't know what to say, but because you choose when to speak. That pause makes people lean in. It forces their mind to fill the silence with assumptions, and those assumptions are always far more powerful than anything you could have said out loud. Machiavelli would advise the prince not to reveal the chaos in his court, but to rule with the appearance of serenity, because perception is not just part of power, it is power. The calm face hides the roaring fire, but only the face matters to the public. And when your enemies see calm, they don't think you are unaffected. They think you are unbeatable. Control perception, and you control the narrative. Control. The narrative and the truth no longer matters, only what they believe. So the next time you walk into a confrontation, don't prepare arguments. Prepare your state, your breath, your posture, your gaze. Because if you can hold your calm while others crumble, it will not matter what is said. The room will look to you as the authority. They won't know why, they'll just feel it. And that is how power works. Emotion is the leash by which most men are dragged. It pulls at their dignity, yanks at their pride, and parades them like fools before they even realize they are on display in confrontation. Emotion is not your ally. It is your executioner. And if you have not yet learned to sever it, then you have no place in the game of power. There is a reason the manipulator always seeks to provoke you. He wants you to feel to burn, to twitch, to react. Because he knows that the moment you become emotional, you stop thinking in straight lines, logic fragments, strategy dissolves, you become a servant to your rage, your insecurity, your need to defend, and he becomes your puppeteer. The Machiavellian mind does not fear confrontation. It welcomes it, but it does so on its own terms, without emotion, without haste, with surgical stillness. The calmest man in the room is not calm because he lacks the capacity for emotion. He is calm because he has locked it in a cage. He feels everything but uses nothing. To detach from emotion is not to become cold. It is to become selective. You don't destroy your feelings. You delay them. You postpone them. Like a king postpones a hanging. Not today. Not here. Not until I've won. When someone insults you in confrontation, your instinct will scream to retaliate, to defend your ego, to reclaim dignity. But that instinct is not strength. It is programming. It is the same pattern every weak man follows, and patterns are easy to predict, easy to exploit. But when you detach, you change the rules of the game. You don't respond to provocation. You observe it. You study the insult, not with pain, but with calculation. You don't ask, "How dare he say this to me?" No, you ask, "Why did he choose that insult? What does he think I fear?" Because the insult is not the attack. It is the clue. The opponent who aims to provoke you is always giving you a map of his own insecurity. He attacks what he believes matters to you. So if you don't react, if you simply look at him as though he's boring, as though his words are beneath analysis, you rob him of the power he thought he had, and suddenly he's the one exposed. There is a kind of silence that makes people sweat. It is not passive. It is not polite. It is psychological warfare. It's the silence of a man who understands exactly what's happening, but refuses to dignify it with reaction. When you detach from emotion, your words become weapons. Every phrase lands with more weight. Every pause is loaded. People start listening, not because you speak louder, but because they know you're not speaking from feeling. You are speaking from strategy, and strategy terrifies them. Emotional men overtalk, they overshare, they interrupt, they justify, but the detached man only speaks when the time is correct. He chooses words like a hunter chooses traps. He says just enough to shift the balance, and then he lets the silence do the rest. Control does not require a raised voice, it requires restraint. If you can train yourself to stay neutral, utterly neutral, while someone tries to provoke you, you begin to dominate them psychologically. They don't understand why you won't respond. They escalate, they overextend, and in that overextension, they lose the battle. Even in a courtroom, in a negotiation, or a personal argument, emotion will always try to hijack you. But if you've prepared for this, if you've already decided that nothing they say will reach your nerves, then you will remain untouchable. You will begin to notice things others miss. The tremble in their lip, the shift in their posture, the desperation in their eyes, when their insult fails to hit. These are the signs of your victory. Not applause, not dominance, but internal collapse. They will try to make you feel that's how they win. They want to pull you into their storm where chaos and confusion rule. But if you remain still, if you refuse to take the emotional bait, they will exhaust themselves, trying to shake you. It is not your job to prove a point. It is not your role to explain your peace. Your power lies in the ability to stay unmoved. The more they rage, the more they look like a spectacle. And the more silent you become, the more everyone listens when you finally speak. Because now they know you didn't speak to release emotion. You spoke to end the game. There is a kind of power that speaks without speaking, a dominance that does not shout, does not argue, does not explain it, waits, watches, withholds, and that power is silence in a world obsessed with being heard. The one who chooses not to speak becomes the most unpredictable force in the room, because silence is not absence. Silence is not surrender. Silence is pressure, and pressure crushes more egos than any insult ever could. When a man speaks, he gives himself away, his rhythm, his insecurities, his desperation to be understood. They all bleed through his voice. But the man who remains silent reveals nothing, and in that nothing others see everything you've been taught. That silence is weakness, that if you don't respond, you're backing down, that if you don't argue, you've lost. But that is the lie. They feed the emotionally impulsive, the reactive, the ones who are easily pulled into every verbal skirmish. Because silence requires what few people possess: restraint, self-command, psychological patience. Understand. This silence is the most discomforting mirror when you speak. You take tension out of the room, but when you remain silent, you trap it, you hold it hostage, and people begin to project their own fears into that silence. They start to doubt, they start to guess, and that guessing is where your influence begins. Say someone insults you in public, if you respond immediately, if you jump to defend yourself, explain yourself, lash back, you've done exactly what they wanted. You've entered their frame. But if you look at them, pause, and say nothing, you've just shattered their expectation. Now they are left wondering, why didn't he respond? Is he not hurt? Or is he planning something worse? That gap, the space between their attack and your silence, becomes a battlefield of the mind, and you are winning not by attacking, but by creating uncertainty. Most people fear silence because they don't understand it. It makes them feel invisible, unacknowledged, and that fear will force them to fill it with more words, more weakness, more desperate attempts to provoke you. Let them every time they speak. They unravel every sentence they throw at you becomes more obvious, more pathetic. Meanwhile, you remain still. Not because you are afraid, but because you are measuring. Silence makes people show their hand. It's a kind of interrogation, one where you say nothing and they tell you everything, their strategy, their emotion, their limits. If you can hold your silence long enough, the truth spills out without you ever having to ask. Because people talk to ease themselves, not to inform you. And they reveal more when you're quiet than when you're loud. The Machiavellian man understands this deeply. He uses silence to punish, to dominate, to confuse. He walks into confrontation, not looking to argue, but looking to unsettle. He says, little waits longer, and lets others speak themselves into submission, because the more they say, the more power he quietly gathers. But silence is not just useful in direct confrontation. It is just as lethal in negotiation, in manipulation, in relationships, in war. The one who controls the silence controls the tempo, and the one who controls tempo controls perception. Say too much, and you look nervous. Say nothing, and you force the other side to question your strength. Think of how generals operate, how kings command, how interrogators extract information. None of them waste energy. None of them explain themselves. They master the space between words. They speak slowly when they speak at all. And when they go silent, the room tightens. People lean in, minds race. Because silence breeds imagination. And imagination, when left unchecked, becomes fear. People are terrified of what they cannot hear, terrified of what you might be thinking, because silence makes them imagine the worst. It makes your presence feel larger than it is. You become not just a person, but a question that no one can answer. This is how silence becomes a weapon. It does not cut like a sword. It strangles slowly, subtly, without ever leaving a visible wound. It wears down. Your enemy's confidence makes them second guess. Every word forces them to fill the void with mistakes, while you remain calm, composed, calculating. There is nothing accidental about this. It is a form of control, of dominance, a mental chokehold that only the truly disciplined can apply, because anyone can speak, but only the powerful can wait. Every confrontation is a war for control, not of fists, but of meaning. It is not about who speaks louder, who throws the sharper insult, or who walks away first. It is about who gets to decide what the confrontation is actually about, because he who defines the conflict owns it, and once you own the frame, you can bend the outcome to your will without ever appearing to force it. The ordinary man walks into confrontation, reacting to the accusations thrown at him. He tries to explain, he tries to defend, he tries to redirect, but in doing so, he has already conceded the highest ground. He has accepted the enemy's terms. He is fighting on borrowed terrain under borrowed rules. And the one who fights inside another man's frame has already lost. The Machiavellian mind does not make that mistake. It does not wait to be told what the fight is about. It tells you, it sets the tone, the stakes, the language, the limits. Before the first word is even spoken, the outcome is already being written, because the moment you can influence how the conflict is perceived, you no longer need to win with facts or emotion. You win by positioning. Imagine this. Someone confronts you, their voice filled with accusation, They want to pull you into a defensive stance to make you explain yourself. But instead of reacting, you respond with a question not to seek clarity but to reposition the fight. You shift the frame from accusation to curiosity, from threat to confusion. Now they are not attacking a target. They are defending their assumption, and without realizing it, the confrontation has become yours. Control the frame, and you control what matters. You can make a small insult seem like treason or a major offense appear as nothing at all. You can transform yourself from suspect to victim, from victim to leader, from bystander to authority, not through truth, not through apology, through narrative. This is the true battlefield, not the words themselves, but the invisible structure that gives them weight. It is not what is said that matters. It is what is assumed underneath it. If you let others build that structure, you will always be scrambling to catch up. But if you build it yourself, if you set the definitions before the debate begins, you will never need to scramble. You will only need to stand. Framing is not about denying reality. It is about choosing which parts of it deserve attention. When someone confronts you, they want to corner you in one version of the truth. But when you shift the frame, you redirect the spotlight. You show them a different angle, a different narrative, a different hierarchy of importance. And most people, once redirected, never return to their original path. They follow the light. They follow your lead. Even silence, when framed correctly, becomes dominance. If you say nothing and they think you are afraid, you've lost the frame. But if you say nothing and they believe you are judging, waiting, calculating, they crumble under the pressure. Because now their words are bouncing off a wall they don't understand. You've defined the silence not as weakness but as control, and they are reacting to your frame, not their own framing. Also decides who the audience sympathizes with. It can make aggression look righteous or righteousness look weak. You can present yourself as the misunderstood thinker, the calm strategist, the wrongly accused, the one who sees further than the rest. And if you do it early before the heat rises, then every word spoken afterward is filtered through your version of the truth in negotiation and argument. Even in moments of deep conflict, this rule never changes. The first to define the game changes the game. If you allow yourself to be defined, you are reduced. But if you define yourself and define the meaning of the moment, others begin to orbit around you. Not because you've proven yourself, but because you've framed yourself. The strong do not fight every battle. They redefine the battlefield. They make others step onto their terrain. And the moment their opponent does that, even by a single step, they begin to lose control because now they are reacting, adjusting, stumbling to fit a reality they did not create. That is why the Machiavellian mind moves first, not physically, not verbally, but mentally. It anticipates how the other will interpret the moment and then twists the lens. It does not wait to be accused. It accuses first. It does not wait to be challenged. It questions first. And when it is forced to respond, it responds not to the accusation, but to the frame itself. It dismantles the foundation before even touching the surface. They will come at you with noise, with fire, with provocation, hoping to drag you into chaos. But the man who knows how to stand still amidst the storm rewrites the outcome. He does not panic. He does not react. He orchestrates. When you master perception, they see what you want them to see. When you detach from emotion, they feel the sting of your words more deeply than any scream. When you hold your silence, they beg for your reaction only to drown in their own noise. And when you frame the confrontation itself, you don't just survive it, you shape it. This is how power moves, not through force, but through composure, not through chaos, but through control, not through volume, but through strategy. Stay calm, not because it is noble, but because it is lethal. Let others burn in the fire they light for you. You become the shadow behind the throne, the stillness in the storm.